mean, I worked with a lot of insensitive, ableist schmucks, though. So maybe take that with a grain of salt. My one lash is popping up. Look at that. Can you see that? I'm gonna have to redo that. We're just gonna leave that for right now. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm happy to see all of you again. If you've not already done so, I'm going to take a minute and ask you to please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I am trying to get up to 100 subscribers, and I am going to be doing a giveaway, as I said in the last video. At least I think I'm going to put that video up before this one, I'm almost positive, when I hit 100 subscribers. So the first 100 subscribers to my channel, US only, just because I know one of the products that's going to be in the giveaway is a setting spray, and liquids, shipping them overseas, that's just right. So I'm sorry, US only. But the first 100 subscribers will all get entered into a giveaway to win a care package of makeup. I'm not certain what all is going to go in it. I'm guessing a bunch of the Spoonie certified products that I've reviewed will probably wind up in it, and a highlighter, because as we all know, I love highlighters. So today we're going to do part 2 of the Hack Your Lipstick. I did Hack Your Lipstick earlier, showing some techniques, and I got a lot of requests to do this again with another color. So today I'm going to be doing this using, again, the NYX Suede lipstick, but this time in color Ace. I'm going to put some swatches up of what it actually looks like for you, and then I'm going to be using the Blue Moon concealer by ColourPop. They're all obviously all blue because I decided that I wanted to blue myself.
No, I'm afraid I just blew myself. There's got to be a better way to say that.
Sorry. I couldn't resist. I love Arrested Development. Today also marks kind of the start of a new series. I had put a video up earlier where I talked about an ableist conversation that I had with a family member, and I also had put a call out on Twitter, and I've had a lot of people respond back. One of the things that I really want to do on this channel is open the discussion about what it's really like for people with chronic illnesses. I feel like that there is a lot that we don't say. There is a lot that we keep to ourselves, either because we've tried sharing it with people and they don't want to hear it, or we're exhausted, right? And we just don't. When you're focusing your energy on being well, and then you're up against things that people, ableist things that people say, having to correct them or explain to them why it's upsetting, that takes a lot of energy, and so we just don't do it. More often than not, what I hear from people that are chronically ill is they just accept the fact that they're going to be treated like lesser, and they don't always like say anything about it, and that just kind of becomes the default. And one of the most horrific experiences about being chronically ill, and it's not just about how other people treat you, it's about the experience of constantly going to the doctor, of being a medical test subject, basically, is that you lose your humanity by inches. Like, it gets stripped from you. And it happens in ways that you don't realize until one day you look up and you don't even really feel like a person anymore. So I think it's important that we talk about this, and I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to share some stories. I am leaving everyone's names out of it. A lot of people have responded to my call out on Twitter. I've had some people email me privately as well. If you have a story you want to share, I would love to hear it. My socials are probably all popping up on the screen right now, and they're also all linked down below in the box, as well as my email. So if you're not comfortable putting it on Twitter, which I get, send it to me in an email. I will share your story on here, because our stories need to be told. even if it's just for us, right? Even if it's just to make us feel better, and to not feel so alone. Like I said in one of my earlier videos, when I talked about when I almost died, we are alone with our illness, but we can be alone together. So with that in mind, let's do a get ready with me, and I'm going to share some of the stories that have been shared with me on Twitter. Okay, I'm going to bring the camera in real close, and then we're going to get started.
Hey guys, real quick before we get started, I just wanted to let you know, for a detailed description of what I'm going to be doing and why I'm going to be doing it, you might want to check out my first video on hacking your lipstick.
All right, so I've kind of divided up some of the stories that I've gotten because they seem to fall into like a couple of different categories. And today's category that we're going to talk about, I don't even know how to label it. So the first one that is probably my favorite out of all of the ones that I have heard is, have you tried stopping being ill? Like just not being ill. I'm going to let that one like roll around in your head for a second. I think I can't even say it without almost laughing. It's difficult for me to imagine. I mean, I know there are a lot of horrible people out there in the world. Someone's saying that. One of the real problems that people who are chronically ill and appear able-bodied run into is the appearance of being able-bodied seems to give people permission to say things to them that I don't believe would be said if the person did not appear able-bodied. So for example, I cannot imagine someone walking up to a person in a wheelchair and saying, have you tried not being in a wheelchair? Like, have you tried walking? Right, I'm having a very difficult time. I'm sure there is probably some inconsiderate schmuck out there who would in fact say that. But I feel like that would be something of an extreme example. But what is like particularly bothersome about this whole have you tried not being sick idea is that it implies agency, right? It implies control. It implies that being sick is a choice, which is kind of going to be the theme for today, is things that are not our choices. Okay, blend that out a little bit. There we go. I am taking kind of a lighter hand with this blue lipstick only because I tested it out earlier and it was like kind of moving around even with the makeup base on. I don't know why. So I'm trying to be a little more like ginger with it. I'm going to take a kind of a fluffier crease brush and I'm going to go in with the color Moonlight and sort of go over all of this and kind of up into my crease. Okay. So, have you tried not being sick? Lovely. The next one on the list, sorry, and I'm looking over because I do have a list and I am going to get to all of you, I promise, just not in this video because there's unfortunately so many of us out there with stories. The next one on the list is, and I'm hoping I'm getting this quoted completely correctly, stop feeling sorry for yourself, kid. Now, I went and looked this person up. They are not a kid, first. Like, they are not a child. And the fact that they are being talked down to, right, like a child, like you're just being a petulant child, is incredibly angering to me. But So there's two problems. Like, we have two problems with that statement, right? And the context, they were kind enough to send the context. They had been hospitalized twice over the course of 2 weeks, received a blood transfusion, and were unable to walk. And then were being told to stop feeling sorry for themselves, and that they were basically being a baby, right? That's the implication of calling them kid, right? Is that they were acting like a child. All right, I had to pause the camera for a second, and I'm trying to remember where I was in the story. So the person in question had I believe I said, blood transfusion, twice hospitalized, could not walk on their own, and were told to stop feeling sorry for themselves. So leaving aside the fact that the kid implies that they're basically a small child having a temper tantrum, which is insulting, the quit feeling sorry for yourself. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to put it out there for the universe. People with chronic illnesses have every right to feel sorry for themselves. They actually have every right to feel however they want to feel. I mean, I sort of feel like everyone has a right to their feelings, but if you're not chronically ill, I don't think you have a right to tell a chronically ill person how to feel about that, because that's not your experience. And it's no different than, for example, if I, as a cis straight female, right, tried to tell someone who wasn't what there was, like, I would never say to somebody who was gay, well, you shouldn't feel that way, or this is what your experience should be, right? It's not my place. That's not my life, right? If you don't know, you shouldn't say, pretty much is my rule. If you've not experienced it, like, then you shouldn't tell other people how to feel about it, basically. I think the big difference here between like a chronically ill person and a non-chronically ill person is that chronically ill people have been stripped of the illusion that they have any kind of control over their body. We don't. Now, human beings really have very little control in general over their bodies when you really get down to it. Genetics, environment, all that stuff. But I think most people live with the illusion of control. If I eat a healthy diet, if I exercise, right? I come from a good genetic stock, whatever, right? They live with this illusion that they have control. A chronically ill person has no control, right? And we have that ripped away from us. And I have had the experience, real quick. I'm going to be going in with this very dark shade called Clued In, just a little bit into my crease to deepen it up. I have been told, you know, this version of like, stop feeling sorry for yourself. It's basically like, you should not think that, is really what they're saying. And I have been told that, right? Specifically by family members, my mother. You shouldn't think that way, right? When I have said that I know my illness is going to take me one day, I've been told you shouldn't think that. But the truth of the matter is, whether I die, and 3 people I know who have been on the same cocktail I'm on have all died from infections. Whether I die of an infection, or I die because my liver goes back into failure and it kills me, or I die because the pain gets to be too much one day and I decide to kill myself, which, honest talk right now, that out of all 3 of those options, the last is the most palatable to me, because at least then it's my choice, right? Which is not to say that like I want to die or that I'm suicidal. I'm trying to be realistic about the fact that like I have no control here. The best control I have is to take my medication, but even that is something of a crapshoot because it can stop working and it doesn't actually like stop the disease. And it's right, it's like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound, right? So being told you shouldn't think that way, you shouldn't think that your disease is going to kill you. Well, then what happens? Right? When I go back into liver failure or the medication stops working or the pain gets to be too much, you know, this is my reality. You don't get to tell me how to live in it, right? If you're chronically ill, you have the right to feel sorry for yourself. That's just the truth. It doesn't matter what other people think. Like, and it's a variation on the "it could be worse" mantra, which I said one time in therapy. And my therapist had a very dramatic response to that. They had like a clicky pen, and they clicked the pen and said, "You know, Bianca, I could stab you in the leg with this pen. And then it would be worse, sure, because you'd have a stab wound and you'd have to go to the hospital. But it actually would not change the fact that you have a chronic illness that cannot be cured." Saying it could be worse does not change anything. It doesn't. It's not comforting to us to say it could be worse, right? Because when you say that, for many of us, and I know this from talking to other people like me, that I am not alone in this. When you say it could be worse to us, what we picture is our future, our grim, dark, hopeless future, where it is worse. We don't want to be reminded of that. So number one, saying it could be worse doesn't change anything. And number two, all it does is make us think about all of the ways in which it can go sideways for us and be worse, right? All right, I'm gonna take a little bit of this clued in again to that, just to like that outer corner. I'm just gonna pack just a tiny bit onto the outer corner. All right. So third one, I think it's psychological. That's a lovely one. So that's another one that a lot of able-bodied appearing chronically ill or disabled folks get. Again, I cannot imagine saying to someone who is in a wheelchair, well, I think it's psychological, right? I also couldn't imagine saying that, to example, to a cancer patient, right? I think it's psychological. You don't really have cancer, right? It's all in your head. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that actually do believe that, but this notion of like, you're not really sick, it's psychological, right? All three of these like statements, right, that have been said to people that were shared with me. Have you tried stop being sick, basically. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. And it's psychological. They all imply agency. They all imply that we have a choice in this matter, that we are choosing this. No one would choose this. Trust me. It's not fun. No one would choose this. And blaming us for our illness, well, that's just a dick move. I'm just going to call a spade, right? It's not our, like, people with chronic illnesses, it's not like I woke up one day and said, you know what I would love? I would love it if my immune system started eating me alive. That would be super fun. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of this color Lumi on my finger and put it into the center of my lids here. And I'm going to tap it on because I feel like it goes on better that way. The psychological one, that one is one that gets thrown around a lot just because, you know, like people don't, quote unquote, don't look sick. And that was something that I actually heard in my former place of employment, that I didn't look sick. And my question was always, well, what does a sick person really look like? If you've ever met somebody who was recently diagnosed with cancer, and when that happened to my uncle, he looked perfectly healthy. He was having stomach problems. He just thought he had gluten intolerance or, you know, something, right? Turns out cancer, right? Most people that are diagnosed with cancer, right after they're diagnosed, before they start treatment, they look like everybody else, right? So what's a sick person supposed to look like, right? We don't all have crutches or braces or a wheelchair, right? One of the most traumatic things that ever happened to me was I was having a very bad day, and sometimes when I flare really badly, standing up can be difficult, just because of the pain. And I needed to use the handicap toilet because I needed the rails to help pull myself up. And there was, it's also like the mommy, right, changing tables in there for mothers with children. And a woman was in with us, like a small child that needed to be changed. And when I came out of the stall, she yelled at me for using a stall that wasn't for me, that was for people with disabilities or small children, and basically tore into me for it. And I just stood there and didn't know what to say back because, yeah, I just didn't have the words, right? And I went to my car and cried. That was how I handled it. Not the best, right, coping mechanism, but it was where I was. All right, going back to the lipstick here just to do a little lining. But this goes back to the idea of, right, like, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with you. You don't look like there's anything wrong with you, so it must be in your head, right? Or you're feeling sorry for yourself, which is also something happening in your head. Or you could just stop, which is also implying that it's something that's happening in your head or that you have some kind of control over. I would say that if you could have one takeaway from these particular like stories, from today's stories, which are all based on this kind of, this idea, right, that you don't look like there's anything wrong with you, right? Bootstrap your way out, or that you've somehow invited this, right? Because it's in your head, or, right, that we've brought this on ourselves on some level, psychologically or physiologically, or however people are choosing to look at it, right? That this is something that we're doing to ourselves. If there's one takeaway that you can glean from all of this, for those of you like able-bodied folks out there, is I really want you to think about what it would feel like to know that your own body has betrayed you. To know that your own body is eating you alive, as it is in my case. To know that you are your own worst enemy. And that there's nothing you can do. And then imagine being told that you're not doing enough. That it's just as simple as stopping, or not feeling sorry for yourself, or seeing a shrink, right? Another thing I want to point out here is that I don't know very many chronically ill people who aren't in therapy. Because as I have said in previous videos, being chronically ill is incredibly depressing. Let's see. What do I want to smoke this out with? I'm going to take a little bit of the Moonlight color again, and I'm going to use it to like set the lipstick that I took under my eye, only because it was transferring a little bit when I tested this earlier. I had to pause the camera, and I kind of smoked out and cleaned up a little bit under my eyes just because I don't know what happened here, but clearly something happened. But I did. Anyway, I know that there are like people, even the most cognizant people, sometimes will say things without realizing it. That's one of the problems that I think like ableism is so insidious, and it runs concurrent with a lot of the sort of like, you think about like the American values, right? Grit, determination, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, right? All of these kind of cultural things that we internalize, and we don't even know we're doing it, right? And then it comes out in strange ways, or it comes out in ways that are hurtful and people don't even realize it. And I will give you a prime example. A couple weeks ago, I was with my husband someplace, and there was an elevator and there were stairs, right? And he is very supportive of me. He's been there 100% all the way, right? Loves me, would never, right, purposefully say anything like hurtful or ableist, but he, without thinking, says to me, I'm going to take the stairs. You can take the elevator if you want. And I talked to him about it later, like when we were at home, and said to him, the problem with that statement is it implies I want to take the elevator. I don't have a choice. I'm in too much pain to not take the, like, I mean, yeah, I could have gone up the 3 flights of stairs with you, but it would have taken me a really long time, and I would have been in a lot of pain afterwards. That would have been a bad choice. So really, there was no choice, in my mind, right? Taking the elevator is really not a choice, right? And like I mentioned on my Instagram stories the other day, going into the doctor's office with the really like heavy outside doors, and I hit the button, right, to get the doors open because I can't always grasp the handles when I'm flaring, and then they're very, very heavy. And the guy outside called me lazy because I hit the button. Because again, when you appear able-bodied, the assumption is that there's nothing wrong with you, right? We have this idea of what a disabled person looks like. We have this idea of, right? And most of us don't actually fit what you would think of as a disabled person. I'm going to use this ColourPop. It's the gel liner. This is an amazing pen, FYI. I'm going to put it into my waterline just to brighten up this look a little bit. These are done now for the fun part. I guess my hope for this like particular video that you will take away from, or like, you know, think about, is the little things, right? The little things make the biggest difference for people that are chronically ill. Being asked, do you want to take the stairs or do you need to take the elevator? And phrasing it like that, because it is a need, right? Do you need me to walk slower, right? Or just matching your pace with theirs. It's not necessarily like rocket science, right? But it's a lot of things that I don't think culturally like we're trained to think about. I know you probably think I'm nuts because I just took a little bit of blue into my cheeks. Trust me. It's all going to get better in a second. I've got a little bit of the like, I don't know, Addams Family vibe going on here for a second, but it will get better. I am using, this is a plum brush. It's by Maybelline. I am not a huge fan of this blush. I'm going to be real honest. But it was the only blush I could find in the color that I wanted when I was looking at them. So here we are, stuck with it. Here we go. And I am just really kind of blending this purple color into the blue. This might not be stiff enough. If you do this at home, I did not actually do this because I did it with purple the last time. It didn't require as much blending. If you do this at home, like a flat contour brush, which is going to be a little stiffer, actually might be a little more of your friend here because you need to like kind of work into and mix the two. There we go, to change the undertone. Oh yeah, that's much better, a lot easier. This up just a tiny bit. Okay, what's next? Lips. I think, you know, reading everybody's stories, it kind of runs the gamut from incredibly insensitive to well-meaning but not helpful. And I think the best thing you can do for a chronically ill person is to ask them what they need, but be insistent. Because you have to understand that culturally we have been trained by all the people out there telling us it's in our heads, by all the people out there telling us we should be able to make ourselves better, by all the people out there telling us it could be worse, by all the people out there telling us that we should stop feeling sorry for ourselves. We have been trained to shut our mouths and take it, right? That we're a burden, to not bother people with how we are. So my guess is if you know someone that's chronically ill and you ask them, what do you need? They're going to lie to your face and say nothing. That's the truth. Because either they think you don't want to hear it, or it doesn't even occur to them that anyone could be genuine, right? Because so much of our experience with people, even sometimes people we love, like I talked about in my earlier video, can be incredibly hurtful. So that's my advice. Ask them what they need and ask again, and then ask again, and then ask again. Ask as many times as you need to, right? Because everybody is a little different. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of a nude liner here. Only because it seemed like when I wore this lipstick before, on the bottom it was fine on the top, but on the bottom, it wanted to move. Okay. All right. Highlighter time. What do I want to do? Let's just do full on. We're going to do full on monochromatic. I'm going to use this Milani highlighter in blue in Make Believe. Okay, I paused the camera because I was having some battery issues. I wanted to swap out the battery, and then I forgot to turn the camera back on. I lined my eyes, popped on a pair of lashes. I am wearing the Kiss Looks So Natural lashes in Lily. I will try to pop a picture of them up above. I did a little bit of a wing just because I felt like the look was so dramatic, it kind of called for a wing. I'm going to finish out with my Pacifica Crystal Dew setting spray. I feel like I was all over the place today a little bit. I had kind of a turbulent therapy session, and I think I might have carried some of that energy into the video. I apologize if I'm was all over the place today. I have a lot more of your stories to share. So this is, like I said, going to be an ongoing series, basically a Get Ready With Me where I just talk about and share what you guys have been sharing with me. I thought just for today, it was important to really focus on this notion of like control and what we can control or what people think we can control and the illusion of control. And I think it's kind of ironic that I opted to do that on a day where I put on lipstick, because I will tell you a secret. If you're going out with people and you don't want to talk about your health, like you're going out with friends and you really just don't feel like talking about what's happening with you, you wear a wild lipstick, or full on makeup look like this, nobody's going to be asking you about your health. I promise you that. They're just going to want to talk to you about your makeup. It is a wonderful distraction tool. I will say, people are less apt to comment on your health when you're sporting a more daring look. Let's call it that. All right. I hope you guys are happy and healthy and well and taking care of yourselves and remembering that self-care is the most important care. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.